Well, good afternoon, everybody. How are you all doing? Good. Lunch was great. Food is all day. This is even amazing, so we can have lunch after lunch. That's amazing. Thank you all for coming to this talk. I hope it's going to be fun. It's going to be on AI, so I hope you're ready for that. We're going to talk about AI-powered workflows with Playwright and MCP. But first of all, I want to get a little feel for who you all are. So be honest, OK? It's OK to be honest. Don't worry. Nobody's judging. How many of you actually know what Playwright is? OK, that's good. How many are using Playwright for testing? That's not too bad. How many of you are using Playwright with AI for testing? Oh, my God. OK, that's good. That's why you're all here. That's perfect. Don't worry. And how many of you know what MCPs are? OK, great. How many of you are using the Playwright MCP? Oh, my God. OK, good. But you're still here for that. That's good. That's good. You're in the right room, so that's good. We're going to be talking a lot about this. I want you to have zero excuses for testing, especially after this talk. A little bit of introduction. My name is Debbie O'Brien. I am now a senior staff developer relations engineer at Block. And basically, my job for the next, I don't know how many years or months or weeks, is going to be to help everyone learn AI. So we'll see how long my job lasts, depending on how quick you are all at learning AI. I used to work for Microsoft. I spent the last 4 years working on Playwright. So you might have seen my face on all the Playwright videos and documentation and everywhere around Playwright. So that is me. Yes, it's not my twin. And all my information, debbie.codes, if you do want to find and follow me for all future stuff, then you can find that all here. A little confession I have to make. As I changed jobs recently, all my slides got lost in the transition of one computer to another computer. So I was about to fly here, and then I opened up my slides to start practicing my talk, and I realized I had no slides. So I was like, oh, what do I do now? How am I going to get all those slides? It's an hour talk. It's a lot of content. So I went to AI. I'm using Goose. That's an open source coding agent. And I basically said, I have a video on YouTube, and I need to create some slides for it. Can you just, you can't watch the video, I guess. So what's the best way of creating slides based on the text? And this is just great use cases of AI. It gave me all the answers. And I was like, OK, cool. So how am I going to do this? How am I going to just quickly get some slides for you all? I know you're all thinking, oh, my God, I paid loads of money to come to this conference, and you just threw a load of AI slides at me. I know, I'm sorry. But that is true. I'm being honest. So I used the Playwright MCP Server here, and I told it to go to YouTube. Here's the YouTube link, because my video of my talk, it's me, it's my actual talk, is on there. And I was able to go there, get the transcript, and create some slides based off that transcript. So sorry if my slides are not brilliant. AI created them, but it's actually really good. It built them in reveal.js. And then it said, do you want it in PowerPoint, or do you want it in Keynotes, or do you want it in this? And my mind was blown. So I actually said, yes, create me in everything. And then I just chose the best one. And I decided to keep it in reveal.js. So I'm just running JavaScript right now to show you my slides. So this is the future, guys. This is it. No more me spending hours and hours and hours and hours just creating slides. I'm just going to record myself talking and then get AI to just create slides based on me talking. So here we go. Zero excuse to test your applications, everyone. Whether you love testing, who loves testing? Not too many, but not too bad. One person said, woohoo, that's good. I do love testing. That's why I worked for so long on testing. I think testing can be fun because it's another challenge that you have to solve. But I know people don't like testing, because testing is also just another part of the job that you don't want to do. You just want to get the code out the door. So whether you hate testing, that's OK. AI is going to write your tests for you. That's the future. I'm sorry, people. Just get used to it. This is going to happen. You're going to have to let go, and you're going to have to let go and let AI do the stuff. Because no more are you going to say, I don't have time excuses, because AI can do it for you. So if you're saying, we have no tests because I don't have time to write tests, well, forget it. You're just not doing your job properly. You can write the tests if you want to, but if you don't have tests, AI can write tests for you, then you need to think about how you're going to tell that company that they're going to have bugs and problems, because you don't want to yet let AI write the tests for you. Anyway, what are we going to cover today? You ready for it, everybody? We're going to cover AI, plus more AI. And then we're going to have a bit more of AI. I know you're all sitting there going, oh, my God, it's time to change talks. I'm going to a different room. Don't worry. We're going to talk about Playwright Agents. Is anybody using Playwright Agents? Oh, my God, did I ask the wrong question? Seriously, people, Playwright agents are cool, right? That's good, because we're going to talk a lot about Playwright agents, and I'm going to basically go into the MCP Test Server tool calls to show you and explain to you how Playwright agents work, so that you're going to walk out of here going, I actually want AI to write the code for me, because Playwright has done an amazing job in making sure that the test code is going to be good. So you're in a good place. Right, let's go. What is Playwright? Most of you know what Playwright is. Is there anybody in this room who has never heard of Playwright? 1, 2, 3, 4 people? Okay, that's cool, no worries. Playwright is an open source testing library, so it is free to use. It is by Microsoft. It automates end-to-end testing. So before, many years ago, we used to have to click around the website and test as a human would, and some people maybe still do that. Don't do that. Well, maybe we might end up going back to that because we'll be testing what AI does. But manual testers, Playwright comes in and automates that process. So Playwright will open a browser window for you and will basically go through the actions of what you asked it to do to test your website. So it simulates the user actions. It's web browser based only, so you're testing websites, not applications. And computers are quicker than us at the end of the day, so why not get them to automate tests rather than you constantly just going through and clicking stuff. What is Playwright MCP? So MCP, the Model Context Protocol, I kind of just like to say it gives the LLMs superpowers so that they can do things that they couldn't previously do. Now everything is changing, and we're seeing our tools being better and better each day. MCP is just over a year old, and when it first came out and we created the Playwright MCP Server, it was amazing because it meant the LLMs could open a browser. Now you don't need just Playwright to do that. There are other ways of doing that, but Playwright's still the best way to do it. I'm a bit biased. And I don't even work there anymore. But it gives the LLMs a toolbox to do the tools and do the things that you could do. So Playwright can click a browser, it can fill out forms, it can do all those kind of things, and you're basically giving your agent, your LLM, those possibilities. And it's the Playwright MCP Server. It's fast, lightweight, LLM friendly, and it uses the accessible tree snapshots. Instead of vision mode, it's using the accessible tree, so it reads through the accessible tree of your site to be able to know where those clicks and stuff are. And that makes it much better, especially for testing, because it's able to know what the button is called, what the usable name is, the accessible name, etc. So a couple of key concepts here. And when I first gave this talk a couple of months ago, there were different names here, and now things have changed. So everything changes so fast in our industry. So now it's prompts versus agents versus instructions. And before, when I gave this talk, it was chat modes in VS Code. Now chat modes have been renamed to agents. So if you've ever used the Playwright agents before, you might have known of chat modes, and now we're on to agents. So instructions. Is anyone using instructions just in their VS Code, for example? Anyone using instructions? Yeah? Okay, so instructions just like things you're going to tell the agent, or tell the agent what your application is about, basically, and you can get them generated for you as well. Prompts, obviously reusable commands. We're all using prompts, and we should be saving our prompts and reusing them again and again. And now, obviously, you've got like skills, and you've got all sorts of things. We're not going to go into that, but I'm just showing you kind of here how I use things and what gets created for you. So the next thing is agents. So agents were like custom chat modes in VS Code, and Claude Code had it called agents, and now we just basically will call them all the same, and everyone's on the same page. It's all called agents. So agents in VS Code, for example, you have ask, edit, and agent mode, and then now we have Playwright agents. So your custom agents that you create yourself, we've created them. Well, I say we, I apologize for that because I'm still used to being on the Playwright team. So when I say we, I mean Playwright, but it's not we anymore. Playwright created agents, and we're going to go through those agents in a moment. You can create your own agents as well, which is kind of really cool. So this all happened because I wanted to book a swimming lesson. I was going to Croatia, and I was going to the hotel, and I wanted to book a swimming lesson. I was doing it online, and basically, the website was broken. So I got really annoyed. It had JavaScript errors. It was my husband booking it, and I was like, of course it worked. Come on, it works. And he's like, it won't work. I can't book it. I'm like, of course you can book it. And then I Chrome DevTools is open, and I'm debugging the whole process and everything, and I'm opening up Safari, and I'm like, damn, this is actually a JavaScript bug right when you click on the amount of children you want to have the swimming lesson, and the thing would just close directly. So I was determined to say, this should be fixed. This is live on their website. It's a 5-star hotel. Come on. This is me booking this, but how many other bugs are on that website? So I basically said they mustn't have testing, because there's no way would this have passed testing. So I basically went and said, they're not using Playwright. I'm going to write a test for them. And I wanted to record it not working, But because I actually got onto the hotel, the developers were very quick and they fixed the bug very, very quickly. So by Monday morning, the bug had been fixed. But I still went ahead and wrote the test for them because I just thought it'd be cool. So that's why the story evolved. And this was me writing the test using AI. And then I was like, right, if AI can do this, like, there's no excuse why this company does not have tests. So basically, the AI approach was using the MCP, Playwright MCP Server, right? This is before Playwright Agents were even created. And basically, it was just natural language. I'm just saying, I want to book a swimming lesson, go here, and click on the swimming lesson, add 2 children, I want this date, and go ahead and book it. And then like capture a screenshot to prove that it was there, and then basically, you know, here's the test. You can just pass that test code off to someone and say, there's your test, just add that in, and you're good to go. I could make so much money selling these tests. The problem with AI-generated tests is there are some common issues. It's not always perfect, right? Especially, and this is like back then. When I say back then, I mean September. So back then, there were some common issues before Claude Opus 4.5. There were timeout errors where the AI used to like to add timeouts to all the Playwright code. It just went, yo, you need a timeout. Oh, this isn't working. We'll add a timeout. We'll wait for this. And in Playwright, you don't need to add timeouts. Playwright waits for the code. So the AI agent, in this case, the LM, was wrong for putting all these timeouts in there. So we have some explicit things that I always add saying like, don't add timeouts. You don't need timeouts. You never need timeouts unless you really need timeouts. And if you really need timeouts, fix your JavaScript. Multiple elements with the same selector. So that was happening a lot, where I was getting a lot of duplicated code. And I was like, oh my God, so imagine this in a big application. How are we going to solve this? So it got me kind of thinking about like the problems that we're going to have and how to solve the next problems when everyone starts to write these tests and use AI to write tests. What problems are we going to have to solve? And then there was some problems with cookie banners as well. Now this got fixed because there's another thing added to Playwright to be able to handle the cookie banners and fix this. So, but at the time, it couldn't get past the cookie banner, so I had to actually manually add that in and fix that myself. So sometimes there are manual fixes that need to be done. And this is just for a tiny, simple test. So imagine like on a large scale, like how many more problems are we going to have to solve? So things were not perfect, but I was still kind of going, still the best approach. It's still great. It's still great. We're still going to need to do this. We still, and I kept pushing the Playwright team to like keep building in the AI approach and keep pushing forward. And the thing is that when the tests don't work, there are some great debugging tools. And it's really great because you can use AI to debug the AI, which is great. But you've got the HTML report. And if you're using Playwright, you get a full HTML report of everything that's gone wrong. And there's a little copy prompt button in there. So when the test fails, you can just copy the prompt, paste it into any LLM, and it'll tell you 95% of the time, it will give you a good reason why this is wrong, and it will be able to help fix it for you. And that's just a really quick way of debugging. Now, that copy prompt button is also available in the trace viewer. The trace viewer is a full trace of your tests. You can go through in time, step by step, every single part of the test. And that's available in local, but also on CI. So if your test fails on CI, you got a copy prompt button in the trace viewer, bang, open up LLM. You can just open it up online on GitHub, for example, and paste that in, and you can literally see the error and get AI to fix the test for you. Then you've got UI mode. UI mode is the local way of fixing tests. So it's kind of like the trace viewer, but with a whole kind of line of a tree of all the tests. So you can see every single test. You can run them, and then you can just manually go through each test. And then the copy prompt button, as I said, is also in VS Code under Fix with AI. It's the same button, but it has a little bit more context in VS Code. And you can, so there's so many ways to debug, right? So the problem of debugging tests has been taken away from us because the tools that Playwright has created is there for you. Now, the reason why these are actually good is because Playwright passes in the context and passes in the accessible tree into it. So it's basically giving, it's not like you just kind of saying, oh, I think this is wrong. Playwright, if you actually look at the code that's given in, it's actually really cool, and it gives up the whole kind of the source code, the accessible tree, and everything, and then AI is able to read through that quicker than you are and basically debug it. But it's basically really, really cool. So take a look at those if you are debugging with Playwright. They are great tools. Then along came Playwright Agents. So Playwright Agents was released in version 1.56, I think about October, November, more or less, around then. So pretty much just after I gave my talk, then something new came out, and I'm like, damn, but it's really cool. This is really cool. And this is basically what I was doing myself with my reusable prompts. So I was creating all these agents myself, and they were just prompts, and then just basically using them. And then the Playwright team basically said, right, we need to create our own agents so that everyone's kind of aligned and on the same page. So there's 3 specialized agents. There's the planner, who's going to create test plans for you. Really, really cool. And there's a generator, who's going to basically write the tests. And obviously the healer, who's going to fix the broken tests. That's all you need. Now you've got a full testing solution just by having a planner run on your website, having a generator, and having a healer. These are really, really cool. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how they work. I'm just showing you here in VS Code, but you can also use Claude, for example, and OpenCode. And then I have had some people use them in Cursor and stuff, and you can play around with it to get it work with whatever you're using. And what it does is it auto-generates for you an agents folder, the VS Code MCP configuration, or Claude if you're using Claude, and a seed spec file. That's for you to seed the test so that you can add into it whatever you want it to do before the test. I'll talk about that in a second. So basically what you're going to get is this, a .github folder if you're in VS Code, and your agents will be these files. They're just markdown files, and it's just a load of instructions that basically tell the agent what you should do, right? From there, you can then basically, I always say, you could go modify it yourself, right? You totally could, but you could just change it and go my Playwright test generator, and then you could basically just edit it and modify it and do whatever you want with it. Remember that this gets auto-generated every time you run the command I showed you in this slide previously. So you don't want to do any changes and then run that command again because all your changes will have gone. But you could totally edit your own and modify it a bit yourself, right? You could totally do that. And obviously with Claude, you're going to have it in the agents folder as well. And it's the same thing. They just kind of name it a little bit different because of naming is hard. So the test MCP server, the agents, so this is the thing, right? And it was very hard, and I created a video on it. There's a video on YouTube that explains. So we have Playwright MCP Server, and then we have Playwright MCP Test Server, right? They're 2 different MCP servers. Now, the difference is when you're using Playwright MCP Server, you go and you configure it. You add it to VS Code or to Claude Code or to whatever using the configuration. When you're using the Playwright Test MCP Server, it's bundled in with Playwright. Okay, so it gets included in with Playwright Test. So you need to be running Playwright Test, and then you need to run that command I showed you previously, and that will add the MCP configuration file in there for you. You can't actually go and get the MCP server down from the internet and run it. It's built into Playwright. And it's a little bit different because when the Playwright MCP server was released, it went just like wild. It was like, we were like going to bed, and then like the next day we'd wake up and there were 5,000 more stars on GitHub. We're like, oh my God, what? So it just like, people were using it nonstop. It was just like immense. And then I was using it for testing, and the team were giving out to me going, no, Debbie, this is for browser automation. This is terrible for testing. It's writing terrible tests. This is not good. And I was like, well, build me something better then. And so they did. So they couldn't just like delete the other MCP server because it's being used so much. So that's why they built another MCP server specifically for testing that basically is more aligned to testing. And that's why there's 2. So you can basically use the Playwright MCP server for browser automation and then the test server for testing. So there you go. A couple of different tools are added in there specifically for testing. I'll go through the tools in a few minutes, but some of them are like for verifying the actual, that the log is there. Before it writes a test, it goes through and sees what it can write the code on. It like has a memory, and it has like, it can debug a single test. It's like really, really cool. So we'll go through those tools in a second. How to use it in VS Code, for example, very simple. When you go down and you'll have these agents. So when you click on that agent button, these agents will appear once you've installed it. So it's very easy. And then you have to select it. This is the hardest part, and the bit I don't like, is that there are 3 agents, but it's also the bit I do like, because you plan, then you generate, and then you heal. It's in the wrong order. That's annoying. But also, I've got to manually kind of click them, which is also annoying. It's also good because maybe you already have a test plan, and maybe you just need to generate tests. Or maybe you already have tests, and you just need to heal tests. So these agents can work separately, and that's great because you don't have to use them all. I also kind of was playing around with Ralph loops, and I was getting a Ralph loop running, so it would do all that for me, so I didn't have to basically run the generator, the healer, the planner, just do it all in a kind of a loop. It failed, but don't worry, it will get better. But you could totally probably make it work. I just tried it one afternoon. But that's kind of where we're going, that loops are coming, and that's going to be a process where the human in the loop is gone, and this is just going to go through those 3 stages, and then on to the next kind of website or whatever. So be careful about the human in the loop part, because Ralph just killed the human in the loop. He threw him outside. But the human should be outside the loop. Don't worry, you're not all dead yet. There's a lot of work to be done outside the loop, but you don't want to be in the loop anymore. So the planner agent. So the planner agent creates comprehensive test plans, right? It understands your app architecture because it reads the accessible tree. It goes through, it reads the accessible tree of your app. It uses the seed files, right? A seed file is basically things you wanted to do. And I have a couple of examples where I was basically adding in some utilities and some things. So I wanted to reuse some code. I had some fixtures I was using, and I basically fed that in there. So then that was going to be used, that import line to the utilities was going to be used. And I basically, in my prompt, told the agent, you know, I've got these reusable stuff that I want you to use, could go ahead and use it. Like I had a function for getting movies for a movie application so that it would basically just, you know, go and get that movies and not create that function again and again. So you can set up your code, if you do that properly and think about your code, you can seed it really, really well so that the agent is not creating duplicated code. The agent will always create duplicated code. You have to guide it and tell it what it has available to it. And once you do that and you have a good architecture, you can get some really, really good tests. So that's the foundation for good tests. You are the foundation. You have to lay that down. That is still your job, unfortunately. So this is a demo, which I don't know if it's going to run and play. Will it play? Let me see. I might have to actually press play. Let me see. Go back to start. So this is just a very simple. I ran it 10 times as fast, right? So this is going really, really fast. And this is just the planner in action. It opens up the Playwright using the Playwright Test MCP Server. It opens up the browser. It starts going through the application. You can see it's running the click. It's running the press key. It's running all those things. It's got a login here, right? So it needs to actually go in and log into the application to be able to do its job, right? And this is the test plan that it was able to create. And it's actually really, 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 really cool. So then I can go ahead and go, right, go ahead and generate the tests based off that test plan. And then it just like goes along and it's able to log in. And you'll see two screens, two kind of Chrome windows just popped up there, right? There's a reason for that, and that is because of the way I have the test set up, which is using project dependencies. Is anyone using project dependencies? Yeah, one person, great. You're doing a good job. So project dependencies, I think I have a slide on it in a minute, so I'll go through it a little bit more. But by using project dependencies, I'm able to log into my application, and the LLM is able to go into the logged in application and is not able to see my credentials. It's very, very important, okay? I have a slide on this in a minute, so let's go through it. So this is the first thing that the planner does, is it runs this setup planner page. That's that seed file. That's the file that gets given to you. Everything you put in that file will be copied into that test, whether it is an import utilities from, or navigate and go to this page, or maybe seed a database, whatever you want. Now I have global setup on this one. So I basically have the database being seeded using global setup and global teardown. That's another way of doing things. So once I have that already configured, the LLM is able to run the tests because it's got the global setup. It's got some database seeds going on. And then you can see here running 2 tests using 1 worker. So, and I even left the .env stuff in there just so you could see. Basically, it was running the setup test to be able to log in. And you can see it's got the env.test.local. So there's an env variable there, but it's not able to see. And I went through every single tool call because the team told me that, you know, the LLM won't be able to see it, but I wanted to verify it. So I was like going through everything, and it cannot see your password. So if you set it up correctly, you can get, you know, nice security-based logging in properly, but you need to use project dependencies for that. So it's really important, and obviously env variables in your project dependencies. That's not to say if you give LLM access and you open that file and feed it into the context, it's going to have access to it. So obviously, like, you know, be careful what you feed into the context of the LLM. So yes, LLM can log in without seeing your credentials if you use the project dependencies, which runs the setup tests, and then the passwords are stored in env variables. You do that, and that's it. You basically set up your project, and now you can log in safely. This is project dependencies. It's super simple. You basically use a project. A project is like a browser in Playwright. So one project is Chromium. Could be WebKit is the next one, for example. And then the first project I have here is setup, and it matches my setup file. And then the Chromium one basically uses the dependency of setup. And then I have storage state, and it stores the storage state in there. That's just for quick development. So it's able to just, like, you know, easily log in each time. So what the first thing it does is it navigates to the page again. It runs navigate to URL. It waits for, and then it can see, like, this is what the LLM can see. You can see, like, the dashboard is seeded with data. I can see there's 3 resources, 1 completed. There's a tabs queue. There's a test article. So it's able to, like, visually go through the whole application, and then it can go and basically create a test plan for me. So this is a summary of what I got. So the test plan covers 10 test suites with 45 test cases across all major functionality. Now, I actually recorded my whole screen while I did this whole thing for this talk, right? So I wrote I vibe coded an application specifically for this talk to write the test for it specifically, to start from scratch, to actually build all the kind of infrastructure around it, find all the problems I needed to solve first, to then go and say, right, now I have the application ready to be tested by an AI agent. And then I recorded my whole screen just to kind of get an idea of how long it took. I was looking after my twins at the time, and Copilot was like running out of like, do you want me to continue iterating? I'm like, oh, come on, Copilot, yes. I'd have to run back in the room, press OK and enter. It took an hour and a half, and I had to go in and press that button about 6 times. I know there's a setting that I can remove that by uploading the max limit or something, but I didn't have it on this computer because it's a 7-year-old computer that I shouldn't be using. Because my new computer is in the post. So an hour and a half with pauses in between. So it took, what, maybe an hour to do this whole thing from start to finish, right? So that's the time you're taking. It's a small application. It's not a business enterprise application, but still, obviously the setup took a lot longer. But this is basically the test plan it gives you. And it's structured in a way, this is what Playwright explains to the agent of how it should be structured. Again, if you don't like it set like this, you can go in and just modify that and say, I don't want it to look like that. But basically, this is how it does. So you can see the file that it's created, the steps, the expected results, and then this is like, obviously it starts at 1, but I've just taken this one because it looked more interesting. And so I've got this whole like MD file that I can now feed in to the next agent to go and create the tests. Now you can go and tweak that and say, oh, I don't want this test because I don't care about that, or I don't know, I want more, I don't know. You can basically review that and modify it to your liking. So the next thing you want to do is add the generator agent, which writes the tests based on the plans. And 1 test per file is recommended. It verifies the elements before it writes the tests. It uses the test logs. So that prevents it from hallucinating over things because it doesn't have to go back into its memory context. It looks at its test log and says, ah, I know the test plan is this. And I'll show you that in a second. And then it runs multiple times for accuracy. So here you've got the, code. That shouldn't be there, cancel, there you go. So ran setup generator page. So this is the plan it has, this is what its input is. So, and then you've got the output. You can see again, it's running the global setup, it's seeding the database, and it's running those 2 tests, the authentication to navigate into the URL. And basically then it's navigating into the URL again, and it starts creating the tests. You can see here, the tools it calls, navigate to URL, wait for, click, 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 type, click, and then the important one, verify that the text is visible. So when it basically, when the Playwright MCP Test Server decides this is the code I need to write, it verifies itself before it actually writes that code. So it's ran Playwright code inside Playwright. It's basically said await for page, get by text, new video idea to be visible. So you're not going to have problems later on of, oh, I can't find this locator, it doesn't exist, because it's verified itself before it's actually written the test. And that's pretty cool because it makes it more accurate because we were getting a lot of problems before, and so the Playwright team then built that into it. So then it retrieves the test log that I told you about. So the test log is there, and it basically says plan, content ideas. So it can read from the markdown plan, and we can go like all the way down through that test plan. It just takes the section it has in its context and is able to then write the test from it. When it writes the test, it's got the code, and then the result, the test written to tests, into that folder, and now you've got a test. And then it goes ahead, and it does the next, so 4.5, 4.6, then 4.7. So each time it runs, it basically builds up the setup, the whole setup page, the test log, runs through it again. So you might say, oh my God, that's super slow. Maybe, but like you can go and have a coffee while that's being done. So it's actually not really slow, it's really quick, but it will take up some time to do something. It's not, if you want it to just go once, open the website, and then write loads of tests, can do that, but you'll have a terrible result. So this is how you get a good result. So what happens when there are errors? Sometimes there are errors. Sometimes, and not always sometimes, most of the time, there are some errors because there could be problems where there's a duplicate locator on the page, so therefore then it starts to run it, and then you can't have two of the same name, so then it has to figure out that error. But it wouldn't have found that specifically when it was verifying, because it was just verifying that it existed, not that there was more than or only one of them. So the healer agent runs tests in debug mode, reads the console errors. It's able to get access to the network, the console, which is really, really cool. In a previous video I had, it had actually found a network error, and then it was able to like go and see, oh, I could see the API has an error, and it's not the code. And this is the really cool thing that, and it was very important to the team when they built this specifically, was about how everyone was complaining about how AI, when it fixes tests, it just marks them all as green, it deletes something, and then it's all green. The agent's job is not to make everything green, it's to make good tests. So if it finds that the test cannot be fixed because of an application bug, for example, it will then add a fix me to the test, it will put in a comment, and it will say back to you, I can't fix this is not fixable, there's some error going on, I think it's this, go and look it up. But it's not going to just delete or just put a green check mark and think that like, yay, I'm so good, I fixed all the tests, right? So that was really important to the Playwright team to make sure that that worked properly, and I think they've done an amazing job in achieving that, because I've never had it fix a test that hasn't been like in the wrong way, right? Like changing code for any reason. But again, test it out and let us know if not. So this was it. The menu doesn't appear in the snapshot yet. It goes and runs the test again. After it added a data test ID because I had two of the same, and then it was able to run again. Because it's running behind the scene, it's running in headless mode here. It runs so fast. It's actually insane how fast those tests run when the healer agent is being run. It's incredible. It's like if I run npx playwright tests, even in headless mode, it doesn't run it as fast. Like it's insane. So do check that out. So it went from 23 failing tests to 16 tests after I run the healer agent the first time. On its first run, it fixed so many tests, and you're like, what? And it was because of a menu. It was get by text ID or get by text menu, and there was two menu things. So I added a data test ID in there. So that was cool. And it fixed it specifically. Again, I can review this. And one thing is very important is to commit between each thing so that you can kind of see the difference that after it generated what the healer agent did. It's able to debug a single test. I don't think there's another MCP server out there that can actually debug one single test, that can actually run a test and pause it and then look at the network in that specific moment in time, check the console errors in that specific moment in time, and then see what's going on. So that's a really, really, really cool tool that it uses, and it makes it very quick because it's focusing on one test. And again, I'm just sitting there. I wasn't sitting there. I was actually watching the 2-year-olds. I was babysitting them. I was playing games while this agent was doing that. Seriously, that is no exaggeration. But I have the video, so I was able to watch over it and basically go back through everything to see it. And it is cool when you kind of see everything that goes on. So best practices and tips for success. You can use headless mode when you're multitasking. So if you go into the MCP JSON file and put in --headless, that means the browser window is not going to pop up. So when you want to start doing things and be working on other things, and you don't want this browser window popping up all the time, stick in --headless, and then you can basically just work and let the agent do its job. I think that's going to be the future. It's all going to be run headless, but at the moment, we all want to watch things, and we still want browsers popping up in our ways, so that's why it's still the default. But one day, default is going to go to headless, at least in my opinion. Enable auto-approve for efficiency. I didn't on this one because, again, it's not my computer, so VS Code isn't set up properly. But normally, I basically go, yes, approve everything when you're using the Playwright Test MCP Server, instead of going, yes, navigate, yes, secure, yes, click, yes, you can do this. That's a slow process. Now, if you want the control and you want to babysit and watch everything, then obviously go ahead and press all those buttons. But if you want to get things done fast, auto-approve for efficiency, commit before healing. So before you open the test healer, commit those changes, commit the test plan before you run the generator, commit each time. Committing is really important. You should be committing more often than ever. And I put this in here, but to be honest, I've changed my mind about this last one. So previously, I would have generated tests section by section. That means in the test plan, I was going in and I was saying, OK, generate section 1. So then there's only, like, say, 6 tests, then generate section 2, because there's then maybe 4 tests, generate section 3, maybe there's 8 tests. And I was doing that each time because I was getting better results that way. Since December, I've changed my mind since Claude Opus 4.5. You can literally feed it everything. It's just much better, and it was able to actually just go and do everything on one try. So again, it took an hour. Do it first all the way through, and if you're finding you're not getting good results, slow down, stop it, and then feed it in less. But to be honest, I've seen a massive improvement since January and early December. Like, it's insane. And in February, who knows what's coming. So the future of testing, seriously, the future testing, let agents do the testing. I actually want to get your opinion. Do you think, after seeing what you've seen now, do you think now you're going to let agents test for you? Is anyone here going to actually test, like, try this out and be comfortable trying it? Yeah, okay, good. Is there anyone, and I don't mind you being honest, is there anyone that's sitting here going, no way, you can put your hand up and say, no way am I going to do this. I'm going to do it all myself. Anyone? Good. Nobody was actually putting their hand up. So someone's either really afraid or everyone is on board, which is great. I really do think that, and not just that this is the way forward, but this just makes, it makes more sense. Damien had a talk in the keynote this morning, and he showed you how much of the percentage of code has increased between last year and this year. It's only going to get more. We are writing more and more and more code. We're vibe coding more and more. I vibe coded the application to use for this. I'm actually using it myself. It's a really cool app. I built it for myself. It's not for you. It's just for me. How many other people are building apps just for themselves? And then they might, like, I want tests for myself because I don't want to have to spend time fixing things. But how many companies are going to build tests for themselves internally? So many. So we're going to have much more applications. We need more testing. So it's really, really important to test. Imagine a world with no bugs. Could you imagine that? Be like, no way, there's always going to be bugs. Doesn't matter what we do. So your 30-minute challenge is seriously to install Playwright, the latest version, right? I'm going to give you 30 minutes because I think that's really all you need. Run the agents command, pick any website. You can pick my website if you want. Test me out. Generate some tests. You don't need the code. You do not need access to the code to get Playwright Agents to work. That's the cool thing. And then just message me your results. Go on, tell me, like, oh my God, like, it actually worked. I have, I don't know, 6 tests, 10 tests, whatever. Just spend half an hour, spend 2 hours if you want, but spend half an hour at least. There's a lot of resources out there, and we have a couple of minutes left. There's a couple of things I want to talk about, the way things are changing. But definitely follow the Playwright YouTube channel, the Playwright documentation, and Playwright on Microsoft GitHub. I am no longer the face of Playwright, so someone else might come out as the face of Playwright, I don't know. But watch the channel, because what I do know is that testing is changing in a way that's going to make people's lives a lot easier. They released just 3 days ago the Playwright CLI tool, so check that out as well. I didn't get time to play around with it and show you it, but that's really, really cool. And I also know this, in the next release, I know what they're working on. I probably shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you because who cares. But basically, the agents are going to get better, okay? So that's where the focus is, on the Playwright agents. And we're going to be writing our tests using Markdown. So you're not going to be writing your tests using Playwright code in the future. You'll still be mixing for the next while, but you'll be able to write in Markdown. And this means we're kind of going back to the Cucumber stages. So Cucumber was very good, but in the wrong time, right? And now we're kind of going back to the Cucumber style of writing, where you can just basically say, go to Nike.com, buy me a pair of runners in size 42, and test that whole process, right? So you're setting it in just in Markdown. You're going to be able to run the tests in Markdown without actually running code. And the agent is going to basically then create and generate the code based off that kind of plan. And that's the kind of plans, and that's the way we should be thinking of testing. Why do we need to write code to be able to test something? We just need to be able to speak what we need and clearly define our needs for what needs to get tested, and let the tools, in this case Playwright, go and figure out the code under the hood and how that works. So that's where it's going. And does everyone know what a Ralph loop is? No, kind of some people. You're kind of hearing all this Ralph, right? It's definitely a developer thing at the moment on Twitter, where we're basically all kind of Ralph crazy. And Ralph is basically, and people say this, it's just a bash loop, right? And then I kind of say, what the fuck is a bash loop, right? It's a way of looping using bash to go through one and after the other and again and again and again. So you don't have to basically be the one pressing the buttons. So that's kind of like where a lot of people are kind of building loops for the agentic flows, so you're able to loop processes so you don't have to keep pressing buttons. And Playwright are going to put a loop into into the Playwright agents, that's for sure, so then that you don't have to do that kind of thing. Now again, there's so much coming, so that everything I show you today, in 2 months' time, it's going to be different. I know. It's like, oh my God, so then what do? Do you actually just go and listen? You've taken notes there. Now do you throw them notes in the bin and just go, do you know what, I'm just going to wait till March and see what's out? No, because what's important is understanding everything that I told you is really important. Setting it up, right? Seeding the tests, making sure that everything works, and knowing how it works. Because when you start generating tests, and you need to be able to read the test log, understand what the tools are doing, what tools it's calling, and how it's writing those tests. So if it does go and fix that test, you know, yes, that fix is verified. Now, we will have a problem, right? Especially when all this comes into play in a couple of months' time. We're going to have even easier ways of, like, anybody can write Playwright tests from now on, right? That's basically the goal. It makes it accessible. Anybody can write tests. Right now, you can just run those agents. Anybody can write tests. So we're going to have a lot more tests. Now, what do you do when you're stuck with all these tests? Hundreds of tests. How do you now manage those? Now, that's going to be our problem. It's going to be a nice problem to solve because we've never had that problem before. Now, Microsoft does have a service if you do on cloud-based testing and stuff. So that service, that's already been solved. So you can spend money and have browsers run in the cloud. So that's not a problem. But how are we going to solve the problem if there are now 20,000 tests and we have to manage that? Well, that's not Playwright's problem, so they're not solving that. That's up to you. There are amazing tools out there, as in you can use the trace viewer, you can use the HTML reporter and stuff. And I don't know, maybe you can vibe code a dashboard or something and say, I need a dashboard to see how many tests have been created, what has not been covered. You can use AI to kind of like go through and find out what's not been, like test coverage is going to be an important problem that we have not solved yet. And that's something, I don't know, no company seems to be working on that right now, but test coverage I think is going to be important. But the person that's putting all that code online basically is going to be responsible for ensuring if there's 2,000 tests, are those tests good? Are those tests that are going to be run on CI? It's going to cost money. Are those beneficial? And that's going to be maybe your job. It's not going to be my job. My job is just to tell you what is your job. No, only messing. But basically, yeah, they're the kind of problems you're going to have to solve. And I don't know, maybe that's going to be solved in a couple of months' time by another AI agent. Who knows? But I'm already there where I'm creating tests in a matter of like every day. I'm creating like 200 tests every day, right? You lot are not there yet. But you need to be on that page. We need to start creating the problem where there are too many tests. There's absolutely zero excuses now, right? It's so easy and so cheap to create tests. Everything is changing, and that's just the way it's going to be going forward. So it doesn't matter what kind of like place you are on the ladder. I'm going to be up here. I'm always going to be up here because I get paid to be up here. You might be down there. That's fine. That means you've got 5 tests, and keep going up all the way until you've got more tests written in less time with good quality. You're going to have to get and start climbing that ladder. And the best way to do it is go back and, like I said, take 30 minutes of your time, start playing around with the Playwright agents, go through the videos on the YouTube channel. They're really easy. Or, even easier, just use AI. Sounds simple, but just basically open. I'm using Goose Coding Agent at the moment, and I'm literally just saying, I created a database the other day. I don't do databases. I'm a front-end developer. And I'm like, I need a database. So I need a test database so that I could test this application without modifying my code. How do I set this up? I just asked AI, what kind of database do I need? I'm running a front-end application. I need to test it, so I need a database that can handle a test database plus my database. And it did everything for me, created the SQL command that I just needed to run. I went into Superbase, opened an account. I'm doing it for free, and I just pushed that all in, and now I have 2 databases. It's just a matter of like 20 minutes. Zero knowledge. I do have some knowledge. I'm not totally stupid. But with zero knowledge of how Superbase works, I was able to get a database up and running. And this is not a promotion for Superbase. This is just me showing you that I had no knowledge, and in 20 minutes I had something working. So if you have no knowledge of Playwright agents, which you all told me you have no knowledge, in 20 minutes, you should be able to have Playwright agents up and running. And if you have any questions, any doubts, you can follow me, you can speak to me, you can send me a message. Hang on, do I have another slide? I do. You can read Debbie.codes, you can follow me, you can ask me whatever, or you can go to YouTube, watch all the videos, you can read documentation, super boring. You can just ask LI LI can read documentation. You can even feed it the documentation page. Another thing I didn't cover, I don't have a slide on it because it wasn't in my last talk, and the slides were obviously built from my last talk. I'm using Playwright MCP Server, so not the agents, the Playwright MCP Server, every time I vibe code an app. So when I'm vibe coding and saying I want to create this application, and I'm putting it into my prompt, I then also have a specific command that I say, and I build it into my prompts, to use the Playwright MCP Server to verify your work. What that means is it's going to go and create the application, and then it goes and it uses Playwright to open up the application. It runs the dev server. It opens it up. It navigates to it. It starts clicking around. And I'm watching it before my eyes going, this is so cool. And it actually just plays around with the whole application, and then it kind of sees, is there a bug already? So before it even writes tests, it's basically manually testing the application. This is free. It's easy to use. It's simple. That's the Playwright MCP Server, not the Playwright Test MCP Server. So Playwright MCP Server, you download it, you install it in VS Code or Claude Code, whatever you're using, and you basically then make sure you constantly say that, put it in your instructions file, put it in your prompt, put it in whatever. Verify your work. Before I used to say verify your work using the Playwright MCP Server. Now it just does it automatically for me. It's built into its memory. So I highly encourage you to do that. It's really, really cool. You can also add in things like, headless. I said you can also add in traces. You can record a trace. You can actually go and watch a trace of what the agent did. And I showed that in a previous talk. But do you really want to go and watch the trace of every single test the agent created? I started doing it, and then I was like, this is really cool, but only unless you really wanted to verify something to somebody. But it's kind of a cool way of doing things. You could also take a screenshot of everything the agent did. And I have another video out there where I got it to actually create a red box around all the areas it tested on the website, just for fun. So there's a lot of cool things you can do. So again, as I said, zero excuses. And yeah, I don't know, if there was one thing that you're going to leave here with is basically to use Playwright in whatever form or way possible to write tests or to verify the work and the code that you're creating, to use AI as much as possible, but to be the one overseeing everything. Use the tools to your advantage. It's absolutely amazing. I think we're living in the best times of our lives right now because we've never been able to create code so fast. We've never been able to get so many issues closed, and it is fun. It's scary, I know, scary times ahead, 100%, but it's fun, and we get to be in the fun part of it. And who knows, in 5 years' time, let's worry about 5 years' time in 5 years' time. But right now, have fun with the tools, embrace them, use them to your advantage. If I were you, take out 2 hours a week of your time to dedicate to learning something, one of the new tools out there, something new, and just start kind of getting more on board with everything that's out there. At this conference, you're going to learn a hell of a lot of stuff. You're going to come home and your head's going to be exploding, and that's totally normal. But go ahead. I see you're taking notes. That's amazing. Take those notes and then go ahead and apply those. If you don't apply what you've learned at this event, if you don't apply what you learned at this talk, everything that we do will be for nothing. And we want to come back and give more talks. So make sure you're applying it. I think we have a couple of minutes left. But I think I've covered everything I wanted to say. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to take a question here on the stage. I'm happy to let you all go and drink coffee and eat food. Up to you. But I do want to thank you for your time. And I really appreciate you all listening to me. I hope it was good.